Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I've got a new question video for you. So we did our 10 questions with Kristen and the kids a couple weeks ago, and my buddy of mine, who we're going to go visit in Tennessee soon, sent me a message, and he was like, hey, can I play the question game? And I was like, yeah, no problem, send me the questions. And so he sent me some questions that I am going to answer all of them as honestly as possible. His questions are a little bit more personal, you know, and these are probably questions that he has that he just hasn't asked me, or because honestly anything he asks I usually answer just bluntly, and maybe this is just something that he was thinking about. So I'm going to answer his questions. I'll read them to you, and I haven't looked these over. I copied and pasted them and sent them to my email, to my phone. And I didn't read them beforehand, but he did tell me, he's like, they're probably a little more personal. Don't answer them if you don't want to. I'm gonna do my best. So if I feel like they're too personal, we'll stop. So let's see here. Question number 1. After surgery, how do you feel going into this summer versus last summer? Heat, humidity, etc. Explain. Last summer, the humidity was a big deal. And so we'll give you an example. This morning, we showed up at the Disney store to do the Mickey's Memory and got there at 5:30. I stood on my feet just standing there until almost 8:30, 9 o'clock before I actually sat down. So that's a big difference. Beforehand, I would have sat down immediately because either my feet would have started hurting or my back would have started hurting. Sorry, I scratched my nose. Or something along those lines. When the sun finally came up, everybody's like, oh, the humidity, it's so hot. And honestly, I'll sweat, and I was sweating, but I wasn't hot whatsoever this morning. My body was sweating just to release heat, but I wasn't uncomfortable. I was perfectly fine standing in the direct sunlight while people were crowding up closer to the awning in the shade. I will say I can tell it's hot, but it has to usually get to about 80 or 85 before I really register that it's warm somewhere. If I'm home alone and Kristen and the kids aren't here, I usually turn the air off, and I'll sit here in like 79, 80 degree house and not realizing Kristen will come home and be like, why is it so hot in here? It's really funny because previously that was me. I'm like, oh, it's so hot. It can be like 72 degrees. I'm like, I'm sweating, I'm dying, it's so hot. And that's a huge, huge difference from last summer to this summer. I don't feel the heat like I used to. The cold, however, I feel that like nobody's business. We were in the movie theater and I almost froze to death. Like I take my jacket usually to the movie theaters with me now when we go, because if not, I'll freeze, or I'll end up pulling my arms into my shirt and like hugging myself to get warmth. So that's a huge difference, and it's an amazing thing. Like, I can go walk the parks in 90 degree weather, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess it's a little warm. It's 90 degrees, and I'm just noticing it. That worries me a little bit because I'll sweat and not realize how hot I am. So I have to constantly focus on getting in liquids so that I don't dehydrate and overheat. So there's a catch-22 to it. It's amazing, and I'm always in jeans or slacks and a t-shirt. And I don't, like I said, I don't feel it. I can tell when I'm sweating, and like I might get uncomfortable because like my shirt will stick to me, but I don't feel the heat like I used to. So that's been a huge relief. Number 2, are you completely free of your medication now, or are there some that you still have to take? Going into surgery, before surgery, I was type 2 diabetic. I took 2 insulin injections a day, and they had me on blood pressure medicine, not because I had high blood pressure, but it was protecting my kidneys from the insulin. And I was on naproxen for my shoulders, which is like it's like an arthritis inflammatory medication. And I was on an acid reflux. I think that was it. I think that's all I was on. Post-surgery, I am not diabetic. In fact, I am as far from being diabetic as possible looking at my last lab results. I no longer take the naproxen because my shoulders don't hurt as often. Maybe if I lay on them a certain way, they'll start to hurt, but literally the weight that was in my arms, and you gotta remember, like, I went from standing like this, you know, going over the weight, to like, I could actually hang my hands beside my side and they're not like bulged out because of the weight that was in the way. So they can actually naturally relax, and that's kind of cool. Also, there's like new ways that I can, like, I didn't used to be able to sit with my elbows on my knees, and I can do that now because my stomach's not in the way as much. Yeah, I'm still a big guy, but I've lost enough weight that I can do things that I couldn't do in the past. I can sit in some chairs that I would have never thought to sit in. Don't get me wrong, I have lost a good bit of weight, but not enough. I'm still going, and I'm still trying to, I'm doing other things to try and help increase the weight loss, but no, I'm completely off all my medication. The only thing I have to take is a multivitamin and calcium and B12. So because your body doesn't absorb calcium, it doesn't absorb vitamins, and like B12 and iron and stuff like that properly, so I have to take that stuff. Now, most people, if you buy your vitamins over the counter, you're taking 2 or 3 multivitamins a day, plus 5 or 6 calciums a day, plus B12. I buy my vitamins from Unjury, and the multivitamin is designed so that you only have to take it 1 time a day. It's all the right amount of nutrients that you need. The calcium I have to take 4 times a day. I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrible at it. I have an alarm on my clock. I have an alarm on my phone to tell me when to take the calcium or remind me, and there are days that I still forget, or I'm so busy at work I turn the alarm off because I'm in a meeting and I forget to take it later. So I imagine I'm going to get yelled at my next doctor's appointment, which, I mean, I've got like, I think August. So I'm really good about it. I only have 1 or 2 days here and there that I miss. And then B12, I'll take a B12 with my calcium. Now the thing is like I can't take a multivitamin and calcium together because your body can only absorb so much calcium at a time. Same thing with protein. Like, people don't realize, like, sure, I can eat 50 grams of protein, you know, take a scoop of protein powder and just eat it and have 60 grams of protein, but your body can only absorb so much protein in one sitting. It's like 30 grams. So, you can't do that. You're not technically getting in the amount of protein. So food wise, I'm not eating 60 grams of protein. That's like 3 pounds or almost a whole pound of ground turkey. I'm getting like maybe a quarter in. Anyways, so 3rd question, what are the 3 biggest mental shifts you've had after surgery? So that's one of the things that I don't think a lot of people realize about this surgery. The surgery is just a tool. Basically, they've gone and said, okay, your stomach's this big and your intestines are shorter because I had the bypass, and that's going to keep you from eating a whole bunch, but having that fixed does you no good if this isn't fixed. So I went into the surgery understanding that, but it's definitely been a bigger mental shift. I've had to learn to teach myself to eat slower and smaller bites, because right after my surgery, when I first went on solid food, I would take big bites and be miserable for hours because too much food was getting into my stomach. So I've had to teach myself to eat smaller bites. I've had to teach myself to eat slower so that the stomach has time to fill and then send those signals to my brain. For me, it's a little weird because before surgery, I don't think I really understood what full was. Like, I don't think my brain ever registered that. And so, like, having a feeling of full now is really new and really weird. Even 9 months later, or I think I'm on my 10th month now later, it's still a weird feeling. And it's, for me, basically I get pressure right below my sternum, and it almost feels like there's a balloon in there. But still, I have to tell myself, okay, there are times where I worry that I can still eat a whole bunch. Like, I'll eat something and it seems like I can eat more of it than I should be able to eat. And so that kind of freaks me out. So there are sometimes, like, I probably could eat more than I eat, but I only take like 2 or 3 bites because I'm worried I'm gonna overeat and stretch the stomach pouch out again, because I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to end up being a failure because I couldn't control myself. And so that's a mental game that that has nothing to do with my stomach. It has nothing to do with anything. It's my mind telling me, slow down, smaller bites, and pay attention to the signals. Because again, prior to this, I didn't know what the feeling of full was. I don't think I was ever full unless I ate myself beyond full and I was just miserable. So that's something that's completely new, understanding what that feeling of full is, or even that feeling of almost full. Because like when I'm almost full, it's just like a slow ache, but when I'm full, it's like it feels like there's something in there, like, you know. And then sometimes, again, like I said, I have this. That's my calcium alarm. I'm gonna take it. So yeah, that's been really weird. Learning to understand what full is, learning to understand what a full stomach is, learning to understand what the pain of an overfull stomach is. Another thing too is if I make the decision to eat carbohydrates such as bread, anything that's mushy, crackers not so much, because my doctor was like, you can have carbs, just make sure the protein is the center of the dish. So like I can have a hamburger with bread. I'm only gonna eat half of that because of the bread. Because basically, again, first mental thing, eating slower, smaller bites. Second thing is paying attention to the signals my stomach sends. And even here 9 months after, like, I know my stomach's smaller. If I make the mistake of taking too big of a gulp of like water or unsweet tea or whatever, and it hits my stomach, like you can feel it trying to push itself back up because it knows there's too much in there. So yeah, that's number 2, paying attention to my stomach. Number 3 is remembering that this is 95% a mental game. You know, beforehand, if I was stressed, I ate. If I was bored, I ate. And even now, post-surgery, surgery didn't fix that. If I get bored, I'm like, I'm hungry. And I'm not. There's no way I'm hungry. I'm never actually hungry unless I go like a day without eating. And this happened. There have been days where I just didn't eat anything all day long. But, and then maybe, you know, after that, I'll feel like I'm hungry. But most of the time I eat now, it's just because I know I have to eat, or I eat because other people are eating, and it's like, okay, well, other people are eating, so here's the custom. But if we eat out and we eat out together, I'm gonna finish 40 minutes before you finish, and it's gonna look like I hated the meal. It's a part of the reason I don't like to go out to eat either, is because I feel like I've eaten such a small amount that the waitress is like, you didn't eat anything. I'm taking 90% of it home. And I feel like it's, as somebody who loves to cook, I'm like, this is a slap in the face because they're going to think I hate it. So that's, the last mental thing is myself, is understanding that I'm my own worst critic, understanding that for 33 years I've been the biggest the biggest opponent to losing weight. Now, that's not saying it's completely easy now or anything like that. You know, hereditarily, I was going to be a big guy. And it scares me with my kids because hereditarily, they're going to be big kids. So it's something I constantly stay on them about. And I constantly pay attention to their food intake and stuff like that. So, you know, yes, some of my issues are hereditary and it's science in play, but a good chunk of it was me, and just not, I didn't care. I had a lot of anger towards my weight, not at me, but at the people who judged me based on my weight. And so I blocked that out and just pretended like my weight wasn't an issue. And I just ate, and I ate my feelings, I ate my stress, I ate my boredom, and those things are still an issue. If I get stressed at work, I will be like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go eat something. Now the difference is I've gotten to where it's not like, I'm gonna go get a bag of potato chips or a candy bar. I'm like, oh, I brought a bag of cheese today, I'll just eat a cheese cube. I try and make sure that if my brain starts to want to snack on something, that the foods that are within reach aren't terrible for me. They're protein based versus carb based, and there's little to no sugar in them, or they're made with like Splenda, and they're low fat and stuff like that. That's the biggest difference. Now, at the same sense, I haven't made my family stop eating chips or stop having cake and ice cream. I make sure they eat it in very meager moderations, but I'm not going to punish them because of the things I can't have. So stuff comes into this house that I can't have. I sit down at birthday parties with cake and ice cream, things I can't have, but because I want this to succeed, I have to stay on top of my own brain. At work, every time they do something special, it's usually a sweet. They just did donuts for dads at my work on Friday, and even the lady that comes around, she's like, I know you're gonna say no. She's like, but would you like one? And I'm like, no ma'am, I appreciate the offer. And next week they're doing Coke floats or root beer floats and stuff. And I told her, I was like, can't we do like cheese sticks for dad, or something that's not sugary? So but she's also very sweet, and usually she'll buy sugar-free options because she knows that there are people there that can't. And in fact, I work with 4 or 5 people who have also had this surgery, and learning to open up to them about some of the struggles that I go through, and also share my recipes, and they share their recipes and their struggles, and also their wins, their gains. They call it the loser bench, so their losses. That's really new to me, just because of how I grew up, and that's a whole nother video that I'm planning, and you may not even want to see that one, guys. So yeah, I've rambled for like 10 minutes, but yeah, honestly, all 3 of those can be summed up into me. It's beating my old habits. It's beating my old mentality towards it. And it's rough. It's definitely hard sometimes. I would love to have somebody here that's like, all right, get up, let's go do this. Get up, let's go hit the treadmill. Let's go to the gym. Let's go do something. Because for me, it's very boring to hop on the elliptical by myself, and I can watch TV while I'm on the elliptical, and that's not a problem. But it's like, the thing is I've gotten to where I can do it for so long now. Like, I can be on the elliptical 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and I'm just like, this is so boring. And it's mainly because I'm a very big multitask person. I'm constantly working, with this channel, and then I just added 2 new podcasts, and then I have my normal job that's like 50 to 60 hours a week, and then I want to make sure I spend enough time with Kristen and the kids. And so that's beating that side of my brain and be like, okay, you've got to stop working long enough to go exercise. You've got to stop working long enough to go do this, take care of yourself, And I mean, I'm down like 96 pounds as of the beginning of June. I probably down even further. I just bought my first set of clothes, and I know I'm gonna go out of those. I just borrowed a hole punch to put a whole bunch of holes in my belt, and I added like 7 holes in this belt. Still, I'm like on the last hole, but I've got like new pants coming in, and they're like 10 sizes smaller than what I'm used to wearing, and so that's gonna blow my mind trying those on, especially if they fit. I mean, I know they're gonna fit because I know that's the size, but it's still really shocking to put on things that I couldn't wear before. It's weird to put on some of my like 5X and 6X shirts and see how huge they are like that. Those are really big milestones to be able to put on a 4X and a 3X shirt, and they fit the way I want them to fit. So, yeah, I don't know where I was going with that or where this question began. So, I'm going to end that there, and we're going to see what the next question is. Let me see. Number 4, What are some of your fears with your wife going and starting the surgery process? Okay, this is gonna be weird because she's in the bed next to me. When it comes to surgery, there's always that one fear, you know, that they don't come out of it. That's the biggest fear, I think. I am fearful that she'll succeed and I'll fail. But in the same sense, I understand the kind of struggles that she has mentally, and it worries me. It worries me that she'll fail, blame herself. We're our worst demons. Okay. Number 5, if you were stranded in the woods for 7 days and could only have one item, what would you choose and why? Man, I am really big into like prepping and being prepared, and every time I'm asked this question it changes. So this time it's going to be a big roll of duct tape. Why? A lot of people don't realize that the glue on duct tape is highly, highly, highly flammable. So I know how to make a fire. I got like an eyelash in my eye. I know how to make a fire, and having that really highly flammable substance to kind of get my fire started with would be awesome. On top of that, you can use duct tape to bind things. So if I find rocks and sticks, I can make weapons and tools, and you can use the duct tape to, you know, bind those together with like binds and stuff. And then you can make a lot of stuff. You can make water containers, you can make nets, you can make clothes if something gets destroyed and you need to repair it. And so yeah, a roll of duct tape, to be honest with you, I think that would be, yeah, I could survive with that. I mean, I'm assuming I'm wearing clothes and my shoes and things, and the hat. That's, I mean, if I'm gonna get stranded, we're gonna get stranded with the hat. So, there you go, sir. There's your 5 questions, and this is probably longer than any of the other videos from the questions. You just got to see a roller coaster of emotions, thanks to my best friend. So, I do love you guys. I appreciate everything you do for me, all the amazing comments and support, the sharing the videos, liking the videos, just watching the videos. It's absolutely amazing, and it's a huge, huge help. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you, each and every one of you. Till tomorrow.